Welcome to this episode of Mind Power Meets Mystic. I am Michelle Walters. I am the Power part of our show. Cynthia Varkavisser, our show Mystic, is taking the week off. We are very excited to be starting off 2025. Can you believe it? 2025. And as we've come to do with Mind Power Meets Mystic, we'd like to talk to astrology people in January because it's a great time to think about what the year has going on and coming up. Today, I am speaking with Celeste Brooks. Celeste is a predictive astrologer, life coach, and intuitive. Her offerings include classes, workshops, coaching packages, events, and readings. She also helps people find unknown birth times through chart rectification. Her podcast, Celestial Insights, offers weekly guidance. Her popular Instagram lives provide astrological and intuitive insights. Celeste is a board member of the Organization of Professional Astrology and a faculty member of Kepler College. She lectures internationally at astrology conferences. Before transitioning into astrology full time, Celeste had a successful sales and marketing career spanning over 25 years at Fortune 500 companies. She holds the STA's practitioner level certification in orrery. I hope I said that right. Her web
Horary.
orrery. Her website is astrologybyceleste.com. Thank you for being with us today, Celeste.
Oh, it's such a delight to be here with you, Michelle. Should I explain what horary is?
Yes, let's start with that. It sounds like a word out of Harry Potter.
Yeah, so horary, Horary, is a branch of astrology, which is the astrology of burning questions. So what people do is they ask the astrologer a question, and when the astrologer understands the question, they cast a chart at that time, and it details the answer to the question. And everyone involved in the question is represented in the chart. So it is like the tarot card of the tarot of astrology, where it's like a
Oh, that's
divination
totally
technique.
cool. I had no
It-
idea there was such a thing in astrology. See,
yeah, so
there's a
when
reason why I like talking to astrologers. I always learn something.
Mhm.
So I find it so interesting that, like me, you did a biology undergrad, then you did an MBA. Then you worked in sales and marketing for corporate for years and years and years. And then you decided that there was something bigger and brighter and a different light shining and a different future to be had. Um, and now here we are meeting each other in this wave of our journey. How is it exactly that you decided to get off the old path and onto the new one?
Yeah, so around 2018, I was starting to really feel like, is this what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? I mean, I had a very successful career. I can't complain about it, but as time has gone on, companies have become more and more and more parasitic on their employees and expecting things above and beyond and reducing the boundaries between work and life while they make up these programs about work-life balance. And I just had enough. It just felt like nonsense, even though, I mean, the corporation I worked for is doing important things. My last job was to help companies like biotech companies find manufacturing space for their biologic drugs, which help treat things like autoimmune diseases, cancer, and whatnot. So, very important work
Right.
that we were doing that makes the world a better place. But I'd had enough of it. About the back end, the business of it, and it just, I was like, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Anyway, the universe had already provided me with my path. I just didn't realize it. Where I before that I had my first astrology reading, and then the person invited me to a week long training at this. I go to this ranch, Rancho La Puerta. It's a like camp for adults, and that's where I met the astrologer. That's where she had the class. I took the class on a whim. I'm a constant student, and it just took over my life. I mean, astrology had me at hello. It explained so much about myself, other people, the world around me, the timing of events. It helps make everything. You realize how there is this divine order, even with the difficult things in your life, speaks to, your the arc of your soul's journey. And I just started studying nonstop. And at some point, the light bulb went on that, oh, I could do this for a career. And so I retired. I called it retiring early, as Uranus, which is the great awakener, came to my Sun Saturn conjunction, releasing me, like realizing there could be another way forward besides just the grind. And so I went on my fool's journey, and here we are. It's going really well, although I'm working more. I'm working on this part, how much I'm working. Being an entrepreneur, there's, yeah, a lot on
No,
you,
being an
but
entrepreneur, like the work never stops. It
never.
and that's not to say that the work in corporate ever really stopped, but like you had your time. You were supposed to be able to get off. Like you could feel like, oh, it's 8 o'clock at night. I can take a break. But when you're an entrepreneur, it's like, well, maybe 8 o'clock at night, but I'm still making the list of what I got to do, right? At least
That's
that's
real.
that's me. Well, I had this
That's
really weird thing.
that's the problem.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurial in nature, and so they're gonna totally get this. As we're talking, I am reminded I had this really wild thing happen to me this year. I have a girlfriend who plays around in astrology. She's not an expert or anything, but she met me at a coffee shop and she said to me, "Well, there's something that I've been thinking about telling you for years that I've never told you." And I said, "Okay." I mean, this is a friend of mine since I was 17, right? And
Okay.
I'm in my mid 50s, we'll just say that. Anyway, so
Well, before
she's
you tell me the story, what is your sun, moon, rising?
okay, so my sun sign is Sagittarius and my
Okay.
moon sign is Gemini
Okay.
and my rising sign is Libra,
Oh, okay.
okay?
Got it.
And she said, I so one of the things you probably don't know about me is I've had two partners pass away. And that's kind of a lot when you're only 57 years old. And she
Yes.
said, after your husband died, I was looking at your star chart and looking at these books that I had, and I found that you had this pattern that this author I like in your star chart that said that you were going to have your husband die. And here your husband had just died. And I was like, ooh, that's pretty creepy. And then she said, and then I looked at it some more and I saw the pattern in there twice. And I didn't know what to say. She said, I couldn't figure out what do you say to someone whose husband just died and this looks like it's going to happen again. So she said, I
Well,
said
you don't
nothing.
tell them it's going to happen.
Right. She was like, so I said nothing. She said, I said nothing. She says, but now it's been 2.5 years since your second partner died. And
Oh,
I feel like I can tell you this. And I was like, well, was it there 3 times? She said, no, no, no. It was there twice. And
ah,
so, and she couldn't
did she
remember.
tell you what the pattern's name was?
No, she couldn't remember because she'd seen this in my star chart in like 2011 or whatever. And she's no expert. But I tell you, so I went home and put my stars into Chat GPT and said, "Oh, is this true? Is this true?" And Chat GPT was like, "Well, it could be true, and perhaps da 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 da." Da. And I was like, "Oh, okay, interesting." Um, but I tell you, it was really made me think, like, some I don't know if it's true or like I don't know. This pattern was there. These things happened. They're pretty abnormal things to happen. So,
Well, it
has
could have
it
been two divorces, maybe.
I maybe, I don't know, but she read it as
Mm.
two deaths and there were two deaths. And
Oh,
so I tell you, it really has inflated my perspective that people got to pay attention to this. There may be something there. So
yeah. But
I'm
what
sure.
would knowing that do for you? Would you not get married? I
Well, that's why she said nothing, right? That's why she said nothing, right? She was
mean,
like, this is something you don't want to know. And I was like, you're right. I
yeah,
didn't want to know. It was better not to know.
yeah.
But here's the thing, Celeste, is that for years now, for 3 years, my partner passed away 3 years ago. I've been like, why did this happen to me?
Okay, you've got to
Why?
give me your chart
All
information
right. I'll
because
send that
you
all
can't
later.
just.
But I, but
But
I
I want to look at it because I just feel like we don't want to leave people thinking you come for an astrology reading, find out you're going to be uh, a widow 5 times, and then you just have all
No,
this
I
fear.
think it's very
Oh,
abnormal. And this was not your reading. This was hers, and
yeah,
she's an amateur. She doesn't know what she did. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
she
I
plays
think
around with it.
there's
But it
something in your chart that shows maybe disruption in relationships. In your life, it happened to be deaths, but there's could be a ways it shows up. Like maybe you and your partner are separated because they have a work thing where or they're in the service and they're gone for a war or something like that, or just a
but
short
here's the thing is
thing.
it gave me an explanation.
Oh,
And
okay,
you know, and as a hypnotherapist, sometimes what people need is an explanation.
okay,
And
yeah.
so it really helped in that way.
Mm.
Um you must see that when you work with clients that you present something and they go, "Oh,"
Yeah.
and it feels like an explanation. Do you have any client stories you could share with our listeners about um, sharing something with someone where they went, "Oh," or maybe that's why, or I hadn't thought about that,
Well,
or
that happens all the time where it gives people clues to, because everyone is in your natal chart, not just yourself, but like something with a sibling. Let's say you have a sibling relationship that's very difficult and there's upheaval around it. Maybe you have Uranus in the third house, really close to the cusp, and it can be indicative. And there would have to be other signatures too. I mean, it's not just one thing ever, it's always like a bunch of different, you'll see the same thing 3 ways. But yeah, that could help someone get an understanding of, okay, no, it's not just me when I took their tutu at age 14 or whatever that broke this relationship forever. It was, if it wasn't that, it'd be something else that, excuse me, there's a signature for this upheaval. Not to mean that you never can get along, but yeah, there's all sorts of things you can see in your
I just
chart.
think it's wild how many things it can come up
Or yeah, or you
in
marry
this.
someone from a different country. That's a great one. And they're like, why do I just so love these people from wherever? And you can see they have Venus doing something in their ninth house of long distance travel, speaking to the fact that there is this connection with people from cultures outside of themselves that speak to, yeah, their path in relationships.
So here's an interesting question, or I think it's an interesting question. Did you see something in your own natal chart that um, suggested this change of career, or that this would work out for you? Like what? I would
Well, I have
imagine that you would
something.
be looking for,
I
telltale
have.
signs this was a good thing or not a good thing, right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I have Uranus, the planet of awakenings, at my IC, which is opposite my midheaven, which is my career point, and that
Okay.
can be indicative of a change in career midlife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's a planet of astrology, so I mean, it's really literal. Astrology can be just so literal. In fact, today Mercury, I gotta pause for a second. I'm gotta
Yeah.
together, I said.
Yeah.
Ast- Astrology is just so literal. In fact, today, Mercury, the planet of communication, is opposite Jupiter, which rules marriage, in Gemini, which does things twice. And both Mercury and Jupiter are squaring Saturn and Pisces. This is happening today that we're taping this, and Saturn is the Grim Reaper and rules death. And you just told the story about how your you had two husbands that died. Also, tomorrow, Venus, which rules relationships, is squaring Uranus. Sudden breaks. So the energy around your story of having two marriages, both ending in death, is in the energy
She's
right
peaking today.
right now. That's why we're talking about your dead husbands.
Wow, Celeste, you are good.
Oh, but I love everything about astrology and how yeah, how
Well,
it
it's
shows
funny
up.
because this podcast, before we retitled it. It used to be "It's All Connected" before we were Mind Power Meets Mystic, because Cynthia and I both feel like everything is connected, and so I think it's particularly cool that you're just connecting over there on the stars front.
Yep, yep. And you have a moon in Gemini, right? Was that right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so doing things twice. Yeah, that
My
energy. Gemini.
girlfriend said that explained a lot of my job changes.
Yes, you got a lot of mutable energy. Sun in Sagittarius, Moon in Gemini. They're both, and you you said you're 57. I wonder if your Saturn's in Pisces. You're like at your Saturn return.
I
So yeah, you got this energy of you need change, adaptability,
Which is
movement.
probably why I fit the entrepreneur mold pretty good. Always
Hmm.
changing, always something new.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah, it's very good. So I think our listeners would be curious to hear from you what some of the big energies are that you see coming up in terms of astrology things for 2025. Do you have a couple of high points in the year you could tell us all to watch out for?
Well, next year is a huge year astrologically that, oh my goodness, it's so big. It's so big. It's going to be a year of a lot of endings and new beginnings. There's this energy of change. There's several of the outer planets. The farther out a planet is, the more its impact is generational on the collective. It's less personal. And yeah. So Saturn, the planet of structures, is moving from the last sign of the zodiac to the first sign, Aries. So Aries is initiating, Saturn is limits and controls and things like that. And Aries speaks to personal freedoms. And so there's going to be a lot of change on the individual level where there are new potentially structures that can help or hinder people becoming more entrepreneurial, taking their own actions and things like that. And Neptune is changing and moving into Aries. They're moving together. So can you make your dreams come true or allow yourself to be crushed by chaos? These are two questions to ask yourself. Like, what are you imagine? Yeah, imagination can be a word for you for next year. One of the things we're seeing with this energy, these two idealizing the idealizing the claims adjuster, like with Luigi, his trial is going to be the trial of the century, where, the people are going to be out there, ready. His future desires, his future wives are out there vying for his attention. Oh, and the
Luigi, by Luigi you mean the guy who shot the
the
CEO
CEO,
of
the guy who shot the CEO, his archetype, I personally believe that he is the person who started the American French Revolution part deux. I guess I should say that. Yeah. So the man who shot the
Interesting.
CEO, a man of the people who took it's all it's yes, a person died, and that's very
Oh, but
sad.
it's really it's
But how many
created a
people did
lot
he
of
kill?
dialogue about a topic that really needed to be talked. I mean,
Yeah. How many
I
people did his policies kill? That's just simply the question to be asked. Yeah.
well,
So
and
people,
whether or not the current structure of our nation's health insurance is the structure that serves us. I mean, as I
well, and that's the thing that's happening next year. The North Node and the South Node are the nodes of the moon, and they speak to what we're collectively dealing with. And right this minute in December of 2024, the North Node's in Aries and the North Node's an amplifier. We've been seeing an amplification of violence since it went in July of 2023. That was before, the war in the war in Gaza, the terrorist
Yep.
attack happened. And we know where we've been now. The South Node in Libra, Aries and Libra, that's the axis of relationships. They're opposite each other. The South Node's a drains in diplomacy, relationships, going along to get along. It's become very, you can see it, there's a lot of tension between those two in the collective. And this is the energy that Luigi killed the CEO under, and Saturn and Pisces. The Saturn rejects and excludes. Saturn puts limits on Pisces. Pisces rules hospitals. It
Huh.
rules like helping people who are infirm. Pisces is
Okay.
associated with charity and 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 and, and helping the sick. The sick are Piscean, and the weak are Piscean.
Okay.
Yeah, Saturn and Pisces. Yeah. In January, the North Node goes into Pisces, amplifying the conversations about hospitals, helping the sick. Piscean people in mundane astrology, the astrology of worldly event, are those that are disadvantaged in some way. You can think about the homeless, um, the drug addicts, who are escapists, people in prisons, refugees. These are Piscean people. We're going to see an amplification about topics around that. In the United States, there's all this talk about like building camps, well, from the new president, the new old president, about building camps for immigrants.
Oh, for sick people too. Yeah.
Oh, and for sick people. Oh, yes, that's right. Bringing mental health institutions back. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that might be coming. Mhm.
Interesting.
And then the South Node goes into Virgo, and Virgo rules the people who like do the work. It's also associated with unions. It's associated with the working class. So Pisces is also the poor. Virgo's the working class. These are like a loosening of the Virgo, amplifying the Pisces is a little bit difficult. I say 2025 is a year of storms. Pisces rules is a water sign, and we've been seeing this already. And as Saturn controls in hardships, and Neptune, the planet that rules the oceans and like waves of water, the tsunami type energy, because they both come together, we're going to be seeing more hardship from storms. Hurricane Helene was a flash, was an introduction to what's coming with this energy for next year. We're going to see a year of storms, strikes. We're already starting to see the strikes. We had that, the port workers almost went on strike, but they didn't. Well, come next year when the South Node goes into Virgo and the North Node in Pisces, that's going to be amplified. Supply chain issues. If there's no one to put your transistor in a box, you're not getting your transistor. And sickness as yeah, the
So you got
increases
four
in
S's. You got four
yes.
S's, Celeste. You got storms, strikes, supply chain, and sickness.
I didn't even realize that
This is
this.
not sounding like a banner year.
Well,
It's
it's
sounding
not.
like a year we need to kind of brace.
It's a difficult. I mean, there's a lot of difficult energy next year. Let's just face it. There just is. I mean, I can be Pollyanna. I was being Pollyanna saying, yeah,
But
I'd love to,
I think it
but people
helps
are still
to
going to have great years.
yeah, well, and it helps to I think it's helpful to kind of go, well, we never know exactly, right? I mean, who could have predicted this guy would shoot a CEO? I don't know that anybody would have predicted this guy would shoot a
I,
CEO. Like
it's,
in the way that comes out, you don't really know that. You don't
you know
predict it
what's
quite that
coming,
way.
but you
But if
don't
you
know
think about
how.
being strong for these things, it can help you kind of navigate, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't know how it was coming, but we knew something was coming with Pluto and Aquarius. Pluto and Aquarius is we've been the energy has been we've been dabbling in it since 2023, but it went full force in November. And it's the same signature as when the French Revolution happened. And as you move from each sign is in rebellion to the one before it, and Pluto rules the power dynamics. Pluto is also the terror. What are we afraid of? What's hurting us? And so Pluto and Capricorn was too big to fail, where we learned about how we've let these companies get so big that and reckless with limited oversight that they could have crashed the world economy with their nonsense about the mortgage stuff, just trying to sign more
Right.
contracts.
Right.
And then, unfortunately, the election happened when it was at the 29th degree. So the United States decided they wanted the most Pluto and Capricorn person they could possibly find. Someone solely transactional. Capricorn rules government, it's a big business. Solely transactional, focused on what money, wanting to take away all of these regulations so that, yeah, the wealthiest man in the world who's the co-president can get richer and richer and richer. So, yeah, this is what we decided. And then we start to see the consequences in next year.
So what's our upside, Celeste? We need to end on a like
Oh, what's the good stuff
what's something
happening?
good happening this year that we can all like, okay, we're gonna focus on I don't know, Jupiter or somebody
Well,
something good.
Jupiter's always here. Jupiter's moving into Cancer, the sign of its exaltation, where it can do what it does with ease. And that's the Cancer is the sign of the family. It's a intuition sign. I think there's people are going to be getting more and more and more and more intuitive. That's a great thing you can do. Finding security within. I love that. Jupiter in Cancer is also an amplification of protection of the homeland energy. So, what can you do to protect your home front? That's what you can be thinking about for this year.
Okay.
Making home your happy place is like, and I would think about, maybe you don't need to make that big trip to Tanzania or Croatia, or all these different places. But if you do, make sure you get travel insurance so that if something comes up, you have no idea what it could be. It could be a storm, it could be a strike, it could be sickness, it could be a supply chain issue where the plane doesn't have a bolt, so it's grounded. That you are prepared that you'll get all your money back if your trip is
I like
canceled.
that. 2025 is the year to buy travel insurance.
Yeah, that's it. That's a cheerful message
There's
because
a cheerful message. Well,
Uranus
and
is
I liked what
going.
you said about sort of focus on the home, right? Focus on the home, what's in your circle of influence and control, recognizing homes where the heart is, right? I
Yeah,
like that very much.
connecting with family, and family can be who you're related to by blood or who you choose by love. So keep that in mind. Also, Uranus is going into Gemini, awakening to, there's going to be all kinds of technological tools. We're talking about ChatGPT was the Pluto in Aquarius. That came out right like within weeks of Pluto going into Aquarius for the first time. This thing that revolutionized technology, but there's fears about it, but it's a powerful tool that there's going to be all this different stuff coming to it. Who knows? Eventually everybody could be a mind reader, and within the next 7 years have the ability maybe we'll have the ability to communicate with our pets and know what they're thinking.
We
Do I
might,
want to know what Debo's thinking? Will I be insulted?
maybe you want to know. Maybe you
Do I
don't want
want,
to know.
how some people have those things where they could talk to their pets? Doop, doop,
Oh
doop,
yeah, yeah,
doop.
yeah, yeah. No, I think those are really funny. We recently had some pet communicators on our show who connect to animals intuitively and can, share things like they want to go out more. They don't like their new bed. Like it's interesting and I think it's exciting to me. I mean, part of what I find fascinating, not just about hypnosis, but is really coming to understand that there's a whole nother level of stuff going on that we don't have the science at this point to explain, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen, right? So for a long time, people sort of clustered hypnosis with the paranormal, and and then we invented MRI machines. And then we put people in MRI machines and said, "Oh wow, look, the people under hypnosis have dialed down certain parts of their brain." Do we understand it? No, not completely, but it's not nearly as inexplicable as it was before the MRI machine, right? And
Mhm.
I think that you and I started off both as scientists, right? We're going to find more and more science that supports all of these things. Celeste, it has been lovely having you on Mind Power Meets Mystic today. What would you like to share about with our audience?
Well, your audience is going to get a link to my free Setting Intentions with the Moon Phases guide. Working with the moon cycles, the new moon through full moons, is the most powerful way to accelerate your goal achievement. And I love the moon, it's magic. So you get that free guide that can help you get started. I'm also having an event in Sacramento for anybody who is local, where there is going to be the local astrology chapter there, and CGR is having me do a 3-hour workshop about the moon and her phases and all everything. Yeah, you'll learn about how to use it for intention setting, because next year we talked about some of the difficulties, but all of that new energy can really help people make their dreams come true, make big, big, big changes that you maybe even thought weren't possible, but set you on that road where sometimes it can be a difficulty, an ending that brings about a new beginning. But yeah, there's also great energy for Jupiter's always there, helping to boost that energy about cancer, and yeah, there's
Excellent.
good
Well,
stuff.
thank you so much, Celeste. We'll have details in the show notes. Happy 2025 to you and all of your audiences, friends, family, and best wishes. And thank you from Mind Power Meets Mystic.
Thank you for having me, Michelle. It was a delight.